the Galactic Alliance had existed for thousands of years. It was older than most stars that now burned in the galaxy. It was built by the strongest species ever known. Empires had risen and fallen under its shadow. The Alliance had ended wars before they could spread. It had erased civilizations that refused to obey. Whole star systems had vanished from history because of its decisions. To the Alliance, surprise no longer existed. They believed they had seen everything, until humanity. Inside the Grand Galactic Chamber, the leaders of hundreds of species gathered. The chamber was enormous, floating in open space above a blue giant star. Each leader sat in a position of power. Some were warriors, some were machines, some were ancient beings older than human history. This meeting was rare, emergency-level rare. The chamber was silent, but not calm. A single word glowed in the center of the room, projected in light for all to see. Humans. The room reacted instantly. Some leaders leaned forward with interest. Others crossed their arms in annoyance. A few looked uncomfortable. Humans were not ancient. Humans were not elegant. Humans were not united. They were young. They were loud. They were emotional. For a long time, the galaxy had ignored them. But now, something had changed. Reports appeared across the chamber. Human space had doubled in size in a short time. Human technology evolved faster than predicted models allowed. Human fleets moved in strange patterns, avoiding conflict while gaining ground. Alliance analysts spoke carefully. Human fleets do not fight like ours. They retreat when expected to attack. They attack when no attack is predicted. Military commanders added more troubling facts. Human ships were modular. Human crews adapted to damage instead of retreating. Human commanders changed plans mid-battle without hesitation. Worst of all, human fleets were never where Alliance simulations said they should be. That scared the galaxy. The Alliance did not fear strong enemies, it feared unpredictable ones. After hours of discussion, a conclusion was reached. A dangerous conclusion. Humans could not be left outside forever. They were growing too fast, learning too quickly, and watching too closely. The decision was clear. Coordinate. Humans must be brought inside the Alliance or controlled. Control through war was risky. Human worlds were spread wide. Their defenses were strange. So the Alliance chose the safer option. They would invite humanity, not as servants, not as students, but as partners. It was an offer no young species had ever received. The galaxy expected celebration. The galaxy expected gratitude. The invitation was sent. Days later, a human diplomatic ship arrived at the edge of Alliance space. The chamber filled again, scanners activated, and confusion spread. The ship was small. It carried no visible weapons. No escort fleet followed it. Its shields were lowered. Even more strange, the ship did not change course or speed when entering Alliance space. It simply arrived. Security officers whispered nervously. Military leaders frowned. This was not how weak species behaved. The human representative entered the chamber alone. No guards, no armor, no visible fear. He was calm, too calm. The Alliance leader spoke first. He listed the benefits of joining. Protection from stronger empires. Access to ancient technology. A voice in galactic decisions. It was everything a young species could want. The chamber waited. The galaxy waited. The human representative listened quietly. He did not interrupt. He did not argue. He did not argue. He did not ask questions. When the offer ended, he stood. His voice was steady, clear, simple. Humanity thanks the Galactic Alliance for the offer, he said. Many leaders relaxed. Then he continued. But humanity declines. The words echoed through the chamber. At first, no one reacted. Then confusion spread like a shockwave. Some leaders thought they misheard. Others demanded clarification. The Alliance leader spoke again. You are refusing protection, he said. Yes, the human replied. You are refusing power, another leader added. Yes. You are refusing safety, a third said. The human nodded. Yes. The chamber fell silent. This had never happened before. No species had ever said no. No threats followed. No insults were spoken. The human simply bowed slightly and stepped back. The silence grew heavy. Fear crept in. Not fear of war. Fear of something worse. The Alliance had offered control disguised as partnership, and humanity had recognized it. As the human ship departed, one ancient leader whispered a sentence that history would remember. The galaxy had never prepared for a species that could walk away. The Grand Galactic Chamber did not return to normal after the humans left. The seats were still full, the leaders were still present, but the confidence was gone. For the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Alliance did not know what to say. Silence filled the chamber, not the calm silence of control, but the uncomfortable silence of uncertainty. Some leaders spoke at once. They refused protection. They refused power. They refused us. Others remained quiet, watching the empty space where the human representative had stood. One military commander broke the silence. They did not hesitate. That detail mattered. Weak species hesitated. Young species begged. Fearful species asked for time. Humans did none of those things. They listened. They decided. They walked away. Alliance analysts began working immediately. They reviewed the meeting recordings. They slowed the human's voice. They analyzed body language. The results made no sense. No stress indicators. No fear response. No deception patterns. The human had meant every word. That frightened the galaxy. Reports began flooding the chamber. Human space activity had changed. Trade routes were being rerouted, but smoothly. Border stations were shifting positions. Civilian traffic was reorganized with strange efficiency. There was no panic, no emergency signals, just adjustment. An intelligence officer spoke carefully. Humans appeared to have planned for this outcome. The chamber reacted strongly. How could they plan to refuse us? One leader demanded. The officer hesitated. They did not plan to refuse, he said. They planned to survive either choice. That answer made things worse. Old data archives were opened. Ancient records. Forgotten conflicts. Lost wars. Patterns began to appear. Every empire that forced humans into alliances had collapsed. Not immediately. Not violently. Slowly. Those empires became dependent on human systems, human logistics, human problem-solving. When humans left, the empires fell apart. The galaxy had mistaken helpfulness for weakness. A senior historian spoke next. Humans do not conquer, she said. They outgrow. That sentence echoed in the chamber. Meanwhile, the Alliance military watched human space closely. Human fleets were moving but not toward Alliance borders. They were spreading inward. Defensive positions, redundant systems, backup networks. Humans were not preparing to attack. They were preparing to stand alone. That was worse. A proposal was made. Apply pressure, trade restrictions were approved, resource delays implemented, navigation permissions revoked. Nothing extreme, just reminders of power. The Alliance expected resistance. There was none. Human industries adapted within days. Supply chains rebalanced. Local production increased. Alliance economists were stunned. Human markets stabilized faster than predicted. Some even grew stronger. An Alliance trade minister whispered, "They prepared for isolation better than we prepared for refusal." Fear spread quietly, not loud panic. Controlled fear, the most dangerous kind. Then came the intelligence report that changed everything. Human fleets were not increasing in size. They were increasing in coordination. Small ships moved like one system. Independent commanders shared real-time decisions. No central command hub could be found. Humans had no single point of failure. That was against Alliance doctrine. Alliance fleets relied on command hierarchies, on orders, on control. Humans relied on trust, and trust could not be destroyed with weapons. A junior officer asked the question no one wanted to answer. What if they don't need us? The chamber did not respond, because the answer was clear. They never did. The Alliance had believed humans wanted entry, status, recognition, safety, but humans had built their own, quietly, without permission, without approval. As days passed, smaller species noticed something strange. Human space was calm. No riots, no angry broadcasts, no dramatic speeches, just normal life. Families, work, expansion. Some minor civilizations began asking questions. If humans can refuse, why can't we? Alliance control weakened in ways no fleet could stop. A senior leader stood and spoke slowly. We misjudged them, he said. We thought they were asking for a place in the galaxy. He paused. They were asking if the galaxy was worth joining. No one argued. The chamber dimmed as the meeting ended. Outside, human ships continued their quiet movements. No flags raised. No threats issued. Just preparation. Somewhere in deep space, an ancient observer recorded a private note. Today, the Alliance learned a dangerous truth. It wrote, "Humanity did not reject us out of fear." It paused before finishing the entry. They rejected us because they were ready. The Galactic Alliance did not panic, not openly. They were too old for panic, too proud. Instead, they did what they had always done when words failed. They applied pressure. Quiet pressure. Invisible pressure. No fleets crossed into human space. No weapons were fired. No threats were spoken aloud. Instead, the Alliance adjusted rules. Human ships entering shared space lanes faced longer inspections. Navigation permits were delayed. Trade approvals slowed without explanation. It was not war, it was inconvenience. The Alliance believed inconvenience would force compliance. Human space did not react, at least not the way the galaxy expected. Human merchants rerouted ships within hours. Civilian traffic adapted overnight. Local production increased quietly. Alliance observers were confused. The pressure should have caused shortages. It should have caused protests. Instead, human systems became tighter, more efficient, more connected. An Alliance logistics officer stared at the data and whispered, "They're closing loops." Human colonies began trading directly with each other. Resource-sharing agreements appeared where none existed before. Old rival corporations cooperated without public announcements. Humans were not resisting. They were reorganizing. Alliance leaders called another closed meeting. This time, fewer spoke. Those who did chose their words carefully. "We must remind them of consequences," one leader said. A show of authority was approved. A patrol fleet would enter neutral space near human borders, not to attack, just to be seen. The fleet arrived in perfect formation, massive ships, ancient weapons, symbols of galactic power. Alliance commanders expected alarms. They expected human fleets to rush forward. Nothing happened, no warnings, no protests, no response. For several hours, the Alliance fleet waited. Then human ships appeared, small ones, dozens, then hundreds. They did not form attack lines. They did not lock weapons. They spread out. Surrounding space slowly filled with human vessels, all moving at different speeds, all maintaining distance. Alliance sensors struggled. Too many targets, too much motion, too little aggression. A human signal arrived. Clear, calm. "Tom, this region is neutral," the message said. "Please confirm intent." Alliance commanders hesitated. No threats had been made. No rules broken. They confirmed observation only. The human reply came quickly. "Understood. We will observe as well." The Alliance fleet suddenly felt watched. Human ships mirrored movements, adjusted positions, matched course changes without effort. Alliance navigation systems began reporting minor delays. Nothing serious, but enough to be noticed. Then communication lag appeared. Then sensor drift. No weapons were fired. No systems were hacked. But the fleet felt uncomfortable. After several hours, the Alliance commander ordered withdrawal. Officially, it was a routine patrol. Unofficially, the message was clear. The Alliance could not intimidate humanity. That realization spread quickly. Back in the Galactic chamber, frustration replaced fear. "They are testing us," one leader said. "No," another replied quietly. "They are showing us boundaries." Intelligence divisions worked non-stop. They searched for weaknesses. Central command hubs, key leaders, critical infrastructure. They found none. Human command structures were distributed. Authority shifted dynamically. Leadership rotated based on situation. There was no single head to cut off. An Alliance strategist said something dangerous. "If we cannot pressure them directly, we must pressure those around them." Nearby minor civilizations were contacted. Subtle warnings were issued. Human trade may become unstable. Association may carry risks. Some listened. Many did not. Because something strange was happening. Humanity was not asking others to follow them. They were simply existing. And that example was powerful. Smaller species noticed how human space operated. No grand speeches, no demands for loyalty, just cooperation, just choice. Several border civilizations quietly reduced Alliance presence. They did not announce it. They simply stopped calling. Alliance influence began to shrink in ways no military could stop. An ancient Alliance observer recorded a private thought. "We ruled through fear and order. Humans rule through possibility." That frightened him, because possibility could not be controlled. The Alliance realized something too late. Pressure only worked on those who needed you. Humanity did not. Human children continued going to school, human workers continued building, human explorers continued mapping deep space. Life went on, calm, steady, prepared, as one alliance leader finally admitted in a sealed session. They are not preparing to fight us. He paused. They are preparing to outlast us. The chamber went quiet. Outside, stars burned as they always had, and humanity continued moving forward. Not loudly, not aggressively, but with certainty. The Galactic Alliance had many traditions. One of the oldest was simple. When words failed, power spoke. Not war, not destruction, a demonstration, a reminder of who ruled the galaxy. The Alliance Council approved a controlled action. A massive fleet would gather near human space, not at the border, not inside, just close enough to be impossible to ignore. It was called a stability display. Hundreds of warships moved from distant systems, ancient vessels with hulls older than human civilization, weapons that had ended wars before they began. The galaxy watched. This was the Alliance at its strongest. Alliance media broadcast the movement openly. Signals were loud. Transponders were clear. The message was silent but obvious. This is power, remember it. The fleet arrived and formed a perfect formation. Space itself seemed smaller around them. Alliance commanders waited. They expected human reactions, emergency meetings, protests, defensive fleets rushing forward. Nothing happened. Human space remained calm. No alerts, no broadcasts, no visible military response. That calm began to feel wrong. After several hours, Alliance sensors detected movement. Human ships, not a fleet, many fleets. Small groups appeared across the region, far apart, unconnected. At least, that was what the data first suggested. Then the analysts noticed something disturbing. Every human ship adjusted course based on the others. Not through central command, but through shared awareness. They moved like a living system. Alliance commanders issued standard warnings. This is a restricted operation zone. The human reply came quickly, polite, neutral. This region is not under Alliance authority. The Alliance commander paused. That authority is implied, he replied. The human response was immediate. Implied authority is not recognized. No insults, no threats, just refusal. Alliance ships activated high-power sensors. Long-range targeting systems warmed. Still no weapons were fired. Then something unexpected happened. Alliance systems began reporting errors, minor ones at first. Time delays, signal overlap, navigation drift. Nothing that could be blamed directly, but enough to create discomfort. Human ships did not jam signals. They did not block scans. They simply existed in ways Alliance systems were not designed to handle. Alliance commanders adjusted formations. Human ships adjusted faster, always just out of reach, always just close enough to matter. The fleet felt surrounded without being trapped. An Alliance officer whispered, "They're mapping us." That realization hit hard. Humans were not reacting emotionally. They were learning. Every movement, every response, every system behavior. The Alliance fleet was teaching humanity how it worked, and humanity was paying attention. A decision was made. The Alliance would escalate slightly. One ship fired a high-energy scan burst, not a weapon, just a display. The space lit up. Human ships scattered instantly. Perfect timing, perfect spacing, no collisions, no panic. Seconds later, human ships returned to position. Closer. Alliance commanders felt something unfamiliar, loss of control. This was not how power worked. Power made others react. Humans were choosing how to react. A human message arrived again. Still calm. "We request this display end. It is inefficient." The Alliance commander clenched his claws. "Inefficient," he repeated. He ordered the fleet to begin withdrawal. Official reason, exercise complete. Unofficial reason, uncertainty. As the fleet pulled back, something unsettling happened. Human ships did not follow. They also did not leave. They simply stayed. Watching. Recording. When the Alliance fleet finally exited the region, the human ships dispersed quietly. No victory messages. No celebration. Just silence. Back in the Galactic chamber, the mood was heavy. No one spoke at first. Then an ancient leader finally said what all of them felt. They were not impressed. That truth cut deep. The Alliance had shown its greatest strength, and humanity had treated it like background noise. Reports followed quickly, human simulations updated, human tactical models refined, human coordination efficiency increased measurably. They had gained more than the Alliance. Worse news followed. Smaller civilizations had watched the event. They saw the Alliance hesitate. They saw humans remain calm. Some border worlds quietly reduced Alliance military access. Not openly, just quietly. The Alliance was losing something it had always relied on: certainty. An ancient observer recorded a final note for the day. We tried to remind humanity who we are. He paused. In doing so, we reminded ourselves of something worse. He finished the entry slowly. We no longer scare them. Far away, in human space, life continued. No celebrations were held. No speeches were made. Human leaders reviewed data. Human engineers improved systems. Human citizens slept peacefully. The galaxy had tried to speak with power. Humanity had answered with understanding, and that terrified the Alliance more than any weapon ever could. After the failed display of power, the Galactic Alliance stopped acting quickly. For the first time in its long history, it slowed down. Meetings became longer. Discussions became quieter. Old voices once ignored were finally heard. The Alliance had tried pressure. It had tried presence. It had tried fear. None of it worked. So the Alliance turned inward. They searched for understanding. Historians were called. Observers were questioned. Records from forgotten wars were reopened. What they found disturbed them. Humanity had followed the same pattern again and again. When threatened, humans did not rush to fight. When offered control, humans did not rush to accept. When surrounded by power, humans did not kneel. They waited. They learned. They adapted. An ancient historian spoke during one closed session. Humans do not measure strength the way we do, she said. They measure options. The leaders listened closely. She continued. Every empire we respect believes safety comes from unity under control. Humans believe safety comes from choice. That idea felt dangerous. Choice was unpredictable. Choice could not be enforced. The Alliance realized something important. They had misunderstood the human refusal. Humanity had not rejected the Alliance because it was weak. Humanity had rejected it because it was unnecessary. This truth became harder to ignore as more reports arrived. Human colonies were expanding, but not aggressively. They shared technology freely but without ownership. They offered trade, but never demanded loyalty. Smaller civilizations noticed. A minor species near human space made a quiet decision. They withdrew from an Alliance trade agreement. No announcement. No rebellion. They simply replaced it with direct trade with humans. Another species followed, then another. The Alliance noticed a pattern. Species near human space were becoming more stable, not richer, not more powerful, just stable. No internal conflicts, no sudden collapses. The Alliance had ruled through order and fear. Humans offered cooperation without obligation. That was new. An Alliance strategist finally asked the question no one wanted to answer. What if humanity is not trying to replace us? The chamber waited. What if they are showing the galaxy a different way to exist? That thought spread quietly. Because it was terrifying, the Alliance had built itself as the center of the galaxy. Everything led to it. Everything depended on it. Humans did not challenge that directly. They simply ignored it. Alliance intelligence then delivered a report marked critical. Human military growth had slowed, not stopped, but stabilized. No massive fleets, no planet-killing weapons. Instead, investment shifted toward infrastructure, resilience, redundancy. Humans were not preparing to conquer the galaxy. They were preparing to survive any galaxy. An old military commander spoke softly. They are building something that does not need to win. That sentence changed everything. Wars required winners and losers. Empires required obedience. But survival required patience. The Alliance realized that humans were not playing the same game. They never had. A private meeting was held between the oldest Alliance members, those who remembered the galaxy before the Alliance existed. One of them spoke with quiet regret. We build peace by force, he said. They build peace by refusing control. Another asked, can that last? The first replied, longer than fear ever does. Meanwhile, in human space, there was no celebration, no announcements of victory. Human leaders met quietly. They reviewed data from the Alliance fleet encounter. They updated models. They adjusted future plans. One human advisor said something simple. They will try to understand us now. Another replied, "That's fine. Why?" "Because understanding takes time," the advisor said, "and time is something we are prepared to use." Back in the Alliance chamber, a proposal was raised. A dangerous one. "What if we approach humanity again?" a leader asked. "Not with power, not with pressure, with honesty." The chamber reacted strongly. "That would show weakness." "No," another replied. "It would show learning." The debate lasted for days. In the end, no decision was made, because something else happened. A neutral world announced a new policy. They would no longer recognize Alliance authority in their system. They cited no conflict, no hostility. Only one reason: alternative cooperation models now exist. That statement echoed across the galaxy. The Alliance had not been attacked, it had been bypassed. An ancient observer wrote a final entry for the cycle. "We believed humanity was testing us." He paused. They were not. They were testing whether the galaxy was ready to live without control. He finished with a sentence that would later be remembered as prophecy, and we were not ready. The Galactic Alliance still existed. Its fleets still patrolled distant systems. Its laws were still written into ancient networks. Its symbols still carried weight. But something had changed. The galaxy no longer moved around it. That realization came slowly. There was no great rebellion, no war declaration, no dramatic collapse. Instead, systems began making small choices. Trade routes shifted. Local defense agreements formed. Independent cooperation networks appeared. None of them were hostile to the Alliance. They simply did not include it. Humanity remained outside all of it. They did not lead these changes. They did not announce them. They simply continued doing what they had always done: living, building, choosing. An Alliance observer watched human space closely. He expected signs of ambition, of dominance, of expansion plans. He found none. Human fleets maintained borders but did not push outward. Human diplomats spoke rarely and carefully. Human trade ships honored agreements without pressure. Humans did not act like rulers. They acted like neighbors. That confused the galaxy more than any weapon ever had. A final Alliance delegation was formed. Not public, not ceremonial. Small, quiet. They traveled to a neutral station near human space. No fleets followed. No broadcasts announced it. The human response was simple. They agreed to meet. The human representative arrived alone. No armor, no guards, just calm eyes and steady posture. The Alliance speaker began carefully. "We do not understand you," he said. The human nodded. "That is fair. You refuse power," the Alliance said. "You refuse unity?" The human listened, then replied softly. The human listened, then replied softly. "We refused control." The Alliance leader hesitated. "What would you accept?" he asked. The human paused, then answered, "Respect for choice." Silence followed. The Alliance had no response prepared for that. Finally, the leader asked the question that mattered most. "If we fall, will you replace us?" The human looked genuinely surprised. "No," he said. "That is not our goal." "Then what is?" The human answered simply, "To make sure no one needs to rule everyone else." The delegation returned without agreements, without threats, without promises. But something had shifted. For the first time, the Alliance did not feel like the center of the galaxy, just one voice among many. Over the next cycles, more systems adopted independent cooperation. Not all followed human methods. Not all succeeded. But the idea had spread. That power did not have to come from control. The Alliance tried to adapt. Some leaders resisted. Some learned. Those who learned survived. Those who clung to old fear slowly faded from relevance. Humanity never claimed victory. There were no monuments built. No speeches declaring triumph. History recorded no great human conquest. Instead, historians later wrote something unusual. The galaxy did not fall, it grew. An ancient Alliance observer, now retired, recorded his final words. "We thought strength meant forcing others to stand with us." He paused. "Humans taught us strength can mean standing alone and still being willing to cooperate." Far away, human children studied maps of the galaxy. They did not see enemies. They did not see empires. They saw possibilities. And the galaxy, for the first time in its long history, was not ruled by fear. It was shaped by choice. The stars did not burn brighter. They burned freer. And that was enough.